Good morning, and on behalf of Razia and the IAB South Africa, thank you so much for joining us today. The past 12 months, we've seen the IAB shift into a long-term strategy and with a more deliberate focus on the 2030 customer. Looking to this future, part of the IAB's vision was to become more proactive, driving ourselves and the industry towards the needs of this 2030 customer, but far sooner. Our core DNA here at the IAB remains unchanged in the work that we do to ensure that our committees and councils continue to ask the hard questions and address our industry's most critical challenges. These manifest through projects that we embark on, helping us prioritize work streams, which we'll cover off shortly. And once again, in partnership with the PwC and the AMF, IAB South Africa invites you, the industry, to collaborate and contribute to one of the most valuable reports available. And that is why we're here today, chatting about the annual Internet Advertising Revenue Report. This report allows you to see the state of internet advertising in South Africa year on year, and we're able to track progress in the market as well as note the rise of emerging platforms. We've got quite a lot to cover today. Paula will be leading us just in terms of talking through the AdSpend report, what we can expect. We've got Yashika who will jump in and just give us an overview in terms of methodology and data collection. Please also, as we go through, if you have any questions, please do pop them into the Q&A chat box. We really want you to be a big part of this process. And really, just as we get into the content, with the IAB's mandate being firmly focused towards ensuring transparency, benchmarking and measurability of digital channels, the Research and Measurement Council plays a critical role in discovering new ways to address measurement and data availability challenges. The 5 key priorities of the IAB in terms of driving the long-term health of the industry, they remain unchanged. It's part of our 5-year plan, and it really is these priorities that I referenced a little earlier. The committees and the councils really strive to looking at work that helps build brands digitally. It's all about putting consumers first. As we move ourselves into the 2030 vision, we need to help make measurement make sense. Just with the rapid pace of change, there's a lot of complexity, and that's not going to be any different. And really, from a transformation perspective, it's not just about the industry and moving it forward, but it's how do we transform publishers in terms of creating a much better local economy, and how do we do so ensuring that all of this is through a trustworthy digital supply chain. The AdSpend task team consists of myself, Paula, Eleanor and Yashika from PwC, as well as Karen from the AMF, as well as the support of the full Research and Measurement Council. And before I hand over to AdSpend project lead Paula, who will take us through the survey details, I really just want to take this opportunity to reiterate that all collated data that is shared directly with the PwC, and neither us nor any IAB members privy to the detail included. Our role in this project is really just to ensure that as an industry, all parties are aware of the project and its importance, as well as to act as support in troubleshooting queries around completion. So thank you, Paula.
Thanks, Claire, and thank you for all your support in driving it forward and for the council. The IAB is a volunteer-based business under the guidance of Razia and Debbie, and so it is with all the council support that we are able to produce such amazing projects such as this one, and this one in partnership with the PwC. So to kick off, we really want to speak to the objective of the report. And it is absolutely to effectively quantify the size of the internet advertising revenue in South Africa. And this is really to help us make informed decisions through these insights in terms of our own spend for our brands and our companies. This would not be possible without the partnership of the PwC, who, as Claire mentioned, is the primary lead on the project and is accountable and responsible for the sending and receiving of data, the aggregation of that data, and the compiling of the report. And as Claire mentioned, at no point does anyone beside the PwC have access to those data points. Of course, the IAB, who drives this forward, both in South Africa and across the world. And in fact, the PwC and IAB partnership is also a global one. We also are very grateful for partnerships such as the primary partnership with the AMF, who partner with us to ensure that we have the biggest participation possible for the report. The report is only possible with your participation as agencies, brands, and publishers, without which of data we would not be able to produce the report. Again, as I mentioned, it would not be possible without your report, without your support and participation. And just again, a huge thank you for those who have participated in the report last year, as well as those who have continued to support and participate in the report year after year in our partnership together with PwC. So at this point, I'd like to hand over to Yoshika, who will be sharing a little bit more about our partnership and their role in the report. Thanks, Yoshika.
Thanks, Paula. So in terms of what we do, like Paula and Claire mentioned, PwC is responsible for the survey. We have a confidential email address where we would send out the surveys to, and we would then receive those survey details, we collate it, and then we share it consolidated. So at no point does the IAB see individual participants' details. What is shared is a consolidated without any details of individual participants. Just to give you some background, so the PwC and IAB have performed a domestic digital advertising expenditure analysis since 2012, and this is various market participants, both from online and mobile publishers and agency sector contributing. So this analysis has been able to effectively quantify the size of the internet, so that's both online and mobile media revenues in South Africa for the respective year. So you'll see what we do is we will request you to complete it for the 2023 year, and the analysis is based on actual figures, as we believe that that provides more realistic, reliable, and trustworthy data that is useful for you and your organization. And most of the time, this detail comes just before you guys need to do the budgeting. So it helps you to see the actual spend in the past, and then this would be able for you to budget going forward. So, like Paula mentioned, we have a similar relationship in the other territories. So we also partner with the US IAB, and we also perform the study, and therefore it's considered or accepted the most comprehensive measure of online and mobile advertising. So what are the benefits of participating? So it improves your understanding and knowledge of the online and media revenue spent in South Africa. It improves your decision making for you and your clients that you represent based on higher quality data that you receive or that you have available. And you'll see once you have if you have seen the report, you will see the information that is on it. So I think it will definitely help you to improve your decision making, and then it also improves your evidence of the growth and the size of the online and mobile media revenues in South Africa when you have to compare to the other traditional media revenues. And lastly, it's improved comparison of the size, growth, and trends in South African market to that of other territories. Thanks, Paula.
Thanks, Yoshika, and to the full PwC team for your support. It has been a fantastic relationship over the last almost 12 years, and yeah, we're looking forward to the year ahead. Now getting into the survey itself, and please, again, as Claire said, this is an open webinar. It's open to the full industry. This is your chance to ask questions. If possible, you can use the Q&A function in the Zoom chat just to load your questions, and then we can answer those at the end of the session. So what's changed? As we said last year, there were quite a few changes that we had made in the years between 2019 and 2021. And while we're always looking to improve the report, we're also cognizant of two things. The one is that we know that we want to be as succinct as possible and to not make the questionnaire too long. And secondly, we want to create consistency year on year in order to create comparative data. Saying that, we do have 2 or 3 updates to the report this year, and I'd like to take you through that, and of course answer your questions around that in the webinar today. So if we start with the introduction, nothing has changed in terms of this section of the survey. So we're literally going to go through screen grabs of the actual survey that has been circulated with the PwC, with the IAB board, with the AMF, and today then to present to you as the industry for any questions that you might have as well before we release it tomorrow for participation. So if we look at question 1, there are 2 changes here. The one is that we have simply added, PwC has simply added an aggregate in blue. You can see there is a percentage total. So previously, when question 1 was shared, while the same line items were in the survey, we didn't have the total column. And so what was happening is that one might get up to 120% because the totals weren't adding up. And at that point, PwC, who is the party who receives the data, would then contact that vendor or partner and discuss getting that back to 100%. So to create an efficiency in the report, we have simply added, well, PwC has simply added in a total percentage. So that is the one change. Sorry, just back one slide. Thank you. Still in question 1, the other area that we have seen incredible growth in and wanted to better understand in terms of our spending averages was around retail media, or as you can see, last on the list under 1B is retail media network ads or retail media shopper. So this is one item that we have added for this year's report. So looking back at 2023 data, we would also like to understand and help the industry understand what percentage of your media spend, digital media spend, or online revenue spend was allocated to retail media. I think this will be an exciting addition to the report that will come out next and later this year. Sorry, back to question 1. This is where everything is happening on this slide, I think. So we've got the percentage totals, we've got the retail media line addition, and then we also have added 1C. And this is for us to better understand video advertising revenue at a greater detail, and also to align with our global report from the IAB along in partnership with PwC. And so the question is written, 1C, what percentage proportion of your video advertising revenue is generated from your connected TV or OTT versus your non-CTV, OTV components? And so we've broken that down into 2 lines that then total to your total video revenue spend in this category. So that is something that we'd like to better understand in this year's report. Of course, we won't have comparative data for that particular line item, but look forward to building that year on year and better understanding investment in this growing category. And then in 1D, we are keeping that the same. This was a new question that we asked last year. And so look forward to creating comparative data as we release the report later in July this year. Thank you. We can go to the next slide. In question 2, we do not have any further adjustments. Last year, we did add TikTok as a specific line item in question 2, but in this year, we have no further addition other than the total column. Question 3, we look at paid search as a total net percentage spend divided between search spending through Google and then other search spending. Again, we have added in blue the total percentage. Once you have added your percentage revenue, we would like to then look at the percentage, or for you to estimate the percentage of your clients that buy through search advertising directly from the source without using an agency. So it's a 2-part question. Preferably please to answer both parts, but if you are unable to answer the second part, that certainly won't remove your participation in the surveys. But yeah, the more information we have, the more we are able to share aggregated patterns and trends with you through our partnership with PwC. So if you can go to the next slide, please. In question 4, we look at the estimated spend of your media spend that is digital. So once we've gone through all the channels and we've answered those first questions in section 1 and 2, and then in section 3, we're looking at search. Now we're looking at the percentage of spend that is in digital as a total percentage. And that allows us, as you'll see later when I show you a couple of slides out of this year's report, it allows us to see the growth in digital spend overall, as opposed to just by channel or vertical. So then in question 5, we look at buying model percentage estimates. There are no changes from this year and from last year's survey. But just to go over it for those who haven't participated in the survey before, here we're looking for you to please estimate the percentage split. So really allocating a percentage of your spending via the different models outlined below. So if, for example, let's say you predominantly use performance-based models, let's say that's 80%, impression-based at 20%, fixed cost at 0, and then that would tabulate for you in the PwC total slide. So we're looking to understand at what percentage split of your spend is done in different buying models. Then if we move to question 6, this is very much just to look at any comments regarding your submission. We're always looking to learn and to understand anything that can help PwC, or PwC are looking to learn if there's anything that can help qualify the totals that you have estimated in the questions above. Question 7, this is the 3rd year that we are looking at total media spend, that is a digital as net percentage across the listed category verticals. So here we're looking for you to indicate as a percentage across the spend or your portfolio as a brand or as an agency or as a publisher, what percentage against each vertical you are sort of distributing your spend in vertical. And then it will tabulate to a total at the end. And then just as a matter of company data verification and information record purposes, we are just looking for you to, of course, include your name, title, email address, and date to make sure that to the best of your knowledge and belief, the above information is accurate and in accordance with the worksheet instructions and agrees with the company's books and records. And then what is important for us is while you as the person who is participating in the report is inputting the information, we do need that cross-signed by your CEO, or the name of your CEO, the name of your head of digital, the name of yourself as the person who is responsible for completing the survey, and any other persons that are required to be in any communications. This just allows us to understand that the data is verified and that we have permission to go ahead using it. As mentioned, we always like to understand where we can learn and change and move things forward. So we ask for your feedback. Was the survey easy to complete? A simple yes or no in the box on the right. Was the information easy to obtain? Will you continue participating in the future? Will you encourage other agencies to participate? Does the survey cover areas which you expected it to do? And then we love to hear in terms of your suggestions. We start planning for this report well in advance and take these learnings into consideration as part of that planning, along with the IAB, its board, its councils, PwC, as well as the AMF and other bureaus. And if you have any other comments, yeah, that's a useful time to do it. So if we look at our timeline, today is the webinar where we are really reaching out to the whole industry to understand if there are any questions about the report, the partnerships, the questions in the survey, or the type of information that is presented in the report. Tomorrow is where PwC will send out the invitation to participate with current participants, previous participants, and other businesses who have indicated they are interested in participating. We then have over a month in order to get the deadline in for the submissions. We do need this to happen in this time frame. PwC put their teams and capacity for the teams to receive information, aggregate that information, and to share with the IAB board as an aggregated data set just after this time. So we really ask for your help to keep to that time frame. We will send out some reminders, but do rely on you to join hands with us to deliver and co-create the report. And then over the month of June is when PwC assimilate all the data points, check with you as participants directly if they have any questions. They then compile the report and note the general trends and patterns that are coming out on the year-on-year data. And then in July, the first 2 weeks, that is when the report is designed in a format that is easy for our participants and our industry members to consume. And then we launch the report. It is due for, I think, in the 3rd week of July. So all in all, if we can participate and aggregate that data in the next sort of month and a half, then we should be on track for a July launch. So thank you for that. Remember to log your questions in the Q&A function on Zoom. While you're busy doing that, we thought it would be quite valuable for you to see what does the report look like once you've inputted your data. How is that aggregated, and yeah, what are the insights that we're coming out? So I won't go through the report in detail. That's not the primary function of today's webinar, but really just to show you what it looks like, which might also help you ask us questions at the end of this session. So yes, the report is the Internet Advertising Revenue Support. And so if we go to the next slide, we can start to get a sense of, what the contents of the report look like. And it's really divided into 3 key areas. 1, the participants, the methodology, and the partners. 2, key trends. IAB, PwC, and AMF work towards 3 key trends, and then we start to get into the actual data from the report that is part of this process that we're going through today. Next slide. This opens up with a letter from Claudel Maldu, who's the IAB Executive Director in Research and Research Executive Lead. Of course, she has her primary role at Essence Media. But thank you again, Claudel, for your support. We start off with some really broad view and broad look at the digital growth. And what we saw last year is just that it continues to grow at double digits, but we can see that it really peaked the year before last at a 43% growth, but growth nonetheless of 10% into last year. Next slide. We then break that down further into looking at spend, and we really show how what that total advertising market looks at. So not just about the growth in digital advertising, but also its growth in relation to the other channels. And as we can see, that digital accounts for 21 to 40% of total advertising spend in our market. So again, another reason to participate, to share your data with PwC, and to understand how to buy better in the digital space in terms of the channels, verticals, and other key areas that are important for you to understand when making those digital media buying decisions. Next slide. We then go into the trends. The trends we looked at last year were AI. Next slide. Into the use of VR and other immersive methods of advertising, and obviously also looking beyond the giants in advertising market, and support of the local publisher network was a key area for us in last year. We then get into some more details around, again, about the internet advertising market, and really looking at that 10% growth and what that looks like from a revenue perspective at just under 15 billion. We look at paid search and how it dominates, and what that looks like when you break that up in terms of where the majority spend is happening here in paid search, and in terms of then looking at that full spectrum of digital spend across the channels. Next slide. And then we dive into the channels. So in this example here, we're looking at social media as a key contributor to overall internet revenue and what that split looks like across the channels. As you can see, the questions that we went through in the survey, you can now start to see how this is visibly reported on in the report. This one looking at the charging models and the different makeup of how different agencies and brands are buying their media. And then we look at the verticals and kind of what the percentages year on year and any key patterns that we're seeing there. Next slide. So that was a quick look at the report. So what you've seen is the questions that we're going to be asking in the survey this year. We've seen a couple of changes, really just the addition of CTV and retail media. I think not relevant to the actual questions in the slide, but we'll also be adding a glossary to help understand the definitions that are used. And this is a global glossary that is approved by IAB globally, as well as PwC. So I think that'll be very helpful for the year ahead. And also adding that totals column, which will help you as you add your percentages and to see that it nets out at 100% total. But yeah, those are the key changes and how they turn up in the report, which I hope you're looking forward to receiving this year in July. But this is the time to ask questions. As an industry, it's important that we collectively decide on what we need in order to make those media buying decisions. So changes. I know that there hasn't been much change in the report, so that can often be, you know, in terms of year on year, kind of keeping that alignment, not making too many changes, just enough to really kind of better elicit some new insights. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, thanks so much, Paula. I mean, our next steps will be that this will be distributed. The webinar will be available for anybody to peruse and rewatch, should there be any questions. And then if there are questions post this, please do reach out to the IAB and we will get them answered as soon as possible.
Fantastic. Yes. Absolutely. And I think when you receive if you haven't received the participant request from PwC tomorrow, please reach out to the IAB for help. I think on the last slide of the presentation are the email addresses. If those are still correct, then yeah, any questions can go through. We want to make sure that we do take those into consideration, and look forward to your participation in the report this year and keeping to our timeline. Thank you.